right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Guys, a lot of you may have noticed that our song to open this is, "What's it gonna be?" And a lot of us were asking this going into the NFL draft. Well, I can tell you this up front, Duval Divers, even as a guy who is not a card-carrying member of the Duval Devout, I believe I am confused as each and every single one of you. Preston jumps in, PT Phone Home. The hell did I just watch? Blocking tight end, of course, mentioned Sunstain. Reyes, didn't see that coming. Cal Jaguar with something I'm not going to share. A tight end, WTF, says PJ Brown. Everybody is in a state of confusion. They're even demanding your name in help and price. WTF, Travis. And they're yeah. But and then Social Alky is the one I want to show. Okay, I'm trusting you, James. Go Jags. He did know Hill was available, right? And that's the guy I thought it was going to be, Social Alky. But before you go, Travis, I am going to say, don't blame me, Duval. I did say I wanted to see a tight end drafted. That is an accurate statement. Yes. I did make that a case. Bat Geta X on Super Chat asks if Balky hacked the systems. Maybe that's a disadvantage with Jimmy Stones running things with technology and stuff. Cal Jaguar James Gallstones. Oh boy, here we go. I mean, to trust the processes from the true brands and all that. It's a whole funny thing. One more comment before I let you in, Travis. Big Diesel in the room. I think many of the guys we were targeting went off the board already, like Lee Hunter. And this trade with Atlanta gave us the pass rush defensive tackle we needed. He's, of course, talking about Ororo, so I could see it. I'd love to see a trade back up, nonetheless, which we can't take that off the board, Diesel. Travis, sound off.
Brother, I'm not going to pretend to say that I love the pick because I think that would be untrue. But I also don't think I necessarily hate the pick because this was just a guy who I just didn't watch very much of. He was primarily blocking tight end at Texas A&M. I knew he was one of the better blocking tight ends, and he was infrequently used there because he actually did have. He was reasonably efficient in the passing game. I believe it was 1.12 yards per route run last season. So like he just wasn't used very much. And we know the Jaguars were looking to have someone in the, one of their early picks to be a starter. You want your second pick to be a starter. You got Brent Strange in the last year of his contract. And you already had, you re-signed Quentin Morris, but that was a 1 year. That's a 1 year deal. So like at the end of the day, after the Rams spammed the NFL. I mean, let's call it what it is. All right, I'm gonna be honest with y'all.
Because listen, they're asking you. It got a super chat.
All right, real talk. No BS. No BS.
You want it.
I didn't love the pick, but I also understood the pick, if that made sense. Like, and I said I'm not gonna shame it until I see it in practice on the field. You've gotten one of the guys who objectively is one of the best blocking tight ends in college football in this draft class. That's just being objective about it. But it's still a tight end who's a blocker who you haven't seen much of it from in college. Like our guy JP Acosta basically said on up. If I have his tweet somewhere here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, he's a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, but he is also a draft analyst from CBS Sports. We had him on the pod last week. He says, "I'm so conflicted. Boerkircher is my guy in this class, does a bit of everything, and is underrated in the passing game. But this feels a bit rich for him. Death by 12 personnel soon. Nice compliment to Strange."
And that's true. I mean, let's touch on that because I mean, the people in the comments are let's say confusion and panic are a Twitter, so to speak. No, not on Twitter, Twitter, probably both. But I think we've talked too much about excitement for a joker formation. I think we talk too much about Cohen using tight ends a certain way for this to just be patently rejected. Like, I'm not saying the Duval devout are going to be, Trayvon Walker wrong, like I said they were all those many years ago, but I feel like there's more there. And moreover, some of the more there we're talking about right now, granted, to Social Alki's defense, Anthony Hill being on the board is interesting. I know he's not your favorite guy, Travis. Perhaps going guard was an option here too, as many as I made. But there's so many comments flying in. I didn't hold on to it, and I should have. But Preston, I believe it was, or it was Preston or PJ Brown, I forget which, said, why don't we just trade back? As much as we've talked about, if people trade back, they're going to lose their minds. We found something that they would be willing to trade back for now at the height that is 20.
You have Brenton Strange on the final year of his contract, while you also have someone who is objectively a great blocking tight end, a great wide tight end, good inline, but also can split out wide. Actually, I have it right here. 75% contested catch rate. Jaguars don't have that. Jaguars ain't had that in a while. Brenton Strange is your underneath guy, whereas Boerkircher is actually someone who can give you layers down the field and actually make those contested catches. Again, I'm not here to sell what they did. I've objectively told you guys already my knee-jerk reaction was, first of all, but also I see where there could be a win there. And I want to be honest and say that, because I already told you guys straight up, this was the first draft class where I considered this a true James Gladstone draft with his guys, with his personnel, with his process. And I'm willing to see it on the grass before I criticize it. But I'm also going to be honest with you and tell you my knee-jerk reaction. And that's what it was. But when he has such a great run blocking, profile, tape, a great contested catch rate, but again, the Jaguars don't have. You guys have been talking about getting a taller receiver, got excited about Jake Bobo because he was at least a big body, but now you have a bigger tight end who can do that exact thing, and also as a blocker who seemed to be underutilized at Texas A&M. I'm all right with it. I'm okay with it because, again, Quentin Morris is re-signed on a 1-year contract. Like, you have now a quote-unquote additional starter option as far as that's concerned. So I'm not against it. And I also thought it was interesting because I honestly thought Gabe Jacas from Illinois was going to be their pick, and the Patriots jumped the Jaguars and selected him 1 pick before Jacksonville. So I just thought that was...
Give up a 4th and a 6th to do it. Correct, Travis?
Oh man, I forgot. I wasn't paying as much attention because it was the pick before Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
But you saw how many of the edges ended up going in the first 2 rounds before the Jaguars. I believe it was 10 edges, and if you believe what you heard on the Hunt episode, on the past episode, they were saying something along the lines of, we've never seen 16 go in the first 3 rounds. So my ears peaked up at that, thinking, oh yeah, they're looking at one of those last rounds of edges. Maybe we'll see what that looks like in round 3 later tonight.
And I believe your count when the Jags picked at 56 was 10 off the board. So they are trending that direction potentially.
Right. So you still have a few guys later in the draft that could end up landing in Jacksonville, as far as the edge class is concerned. We'll see how that lands. But again, I don't want to make a prediction necessarily, but I'm just looking at that group of guys like Joshua Joseph out of Tennessee, Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State, Romello Height, Texas Tech, those guys maybe towards the end of the 3rd or something along those lines, maybe early 4th. So that's my guess. But yeah, you guys are on fire for the obvious reasons, because y'all like, who the heck is this guy? I don't know. And that's fair. It's a fair question.
You at one point, and this isn't me calling out you, Travis D. Holmes, necessarily, but you, Travis D. Holmes, were unsure about Brian Thomas Jr. at one point. And then you had a chance to watch some film and you see it. Now, this feels more like when I hear you talk here, and I know we want to get out of the way to let you guys, watch the draft until we get up to the later picks by Jimmy Stones. We'll hit you again with those tonight here on the Duval Dive. But I do want to point out that once you saw film on BTJ, you felt better about it after the pick, and he did turn out to have a good rookie year, still is a good receiver, et cetera, et cetera. But when I hear you talk about Boerkircher, I'll get it. When I hear you talk about this tight end, it sounds like Chris Rock talking about OJ. I wouldn't do it, but I understand.
I mean,
you didn't know I was going with that at first, but when I landed, you're like,
I do.
Yeah.
But I get it. Yeah. But so like he gives them a lot of the things that they don't have, and he is a lot like a glue guy as far as your roster is concerned. Like he played at Nebraska before he played at Texas A&M, and you normally love an offensive lineman and or a tight end from Nebraska. Those are the dirty guys that get you moving. And if you're not going to invest in the offensive line, the next best option you can do is probably invest in the tight end to kind of get these guys moving. Because as it currently stands, the Jaguars struggled running. Well, frankly, running anywhere. I was going to say running outside of the tackles, but I can't even say that. They just struggled running in the second half of that season. So if you want to infuse some life into that run game, I could see them doing something again like Sean McVay did in the 2025 season and just spamming the NFL in those 3 tight end sets. And so that's kind of what I just believe that they're going to do. You knew they were going to kind of invest in tight end just because there was an open gap on the roster behind Britton Strange. Now it's no longer there. Hopefully it's the right guy. I ain't gonna tell you what it is. I don't know. It ain't my job, but I'm just telling you that's where it is, and we'll see how it lands.
And here's an interesting, I think this is the most interesting version so far that I've seen in the comments, which have gone all over the place, from trust the process to Jimmy Stones is incompetent. You're all over the place, Divers, and I'm not mad at you for it. James said our run game, Fred the Jig, I believe he's commented before here on the Duval Dive, said our run game was dumpster juice, and now we are improving the run game and adding a pass catcher, big body, tight end for Trevor. I believe that's the target and intent such that we're talking about. We see that, and yeah, listen, Social, for the dude that told me I was tripping one time, I appreciate the faith you have in your front office. If Cohen got a plan, cool, I trust him too. I get it. I mean, there's other comments that are less flattering to the front office, but it's all going by so fast right now. Go ahead, Travis.
I mean, but that's it though. Like if you trusted if you trusted Liam Cohen, let me say it that way. If you trusted Liam Cohen, and if you trusted Anthony Campanelli and Heath Farwell and those guys, if you trusted those guys heading into this draft, this pick probably doesn't move you. But I can understand if you're giving them the side eye. Like you're like, all right, I'm gonna watch and wait. So I think that's where a lot of the Duval devout are right now. It's just like, all right, trust the process. But also, if you walked into this thing like, I don't know, James, your whole draft class was a little injured last season. I don't know how I feel about this, and I'm judging you, the general manager, specifically. I could also understand those guys being like, hey, man.
As we instructed them to do, Travis, we said this was the draft process upon which Liam Cohen and mostly Jimmy Stones would be judged. Now, the thing I will reiterate, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear at some point, whether it's tonight, later in the week, next week, or in his book once he retires, whatever, that this wasn't the actual first choice he wanted. There's a high likelihood he wanted another dude first that got pulled, right? Maybe he wanted Lee Evans just as bad as I did. Well, thanks, Carolina. Maybe they wanted
the draft.
Yeah, but that's the draft. Exactly. So sometimes you end up with situations like this when you don't have a first round pick and you're at the mercy of 55 other iterations previously. So there you go. For real, this time.
But he's a blocking tight end that gives you something down the field. I can't even say, I don't think the Jaguars have necessarily had someone like that. Like I almost said Evan Ingram, but no, Evan Ingram wasn't truly a guy to go down the seams and go and get the ball, snatch the ball out of the air.
Is Marcedes Lewis the closest thing?
Maybe, like, because that's not Britton Strange's game either. Britton Strange's game is catching the ball underneath and running, getting the yak. Like, again, they have guys with layers. So, like, if you truly believe that he is a guy who you can use in that way and make you have a different sort of offense, and you gave Liam Cohen another toy, I'm probably not going to complain about Liam Cohen having another toy if that toy involves also both establishing the run game, but also giving you another layer of the offense you didn't have. So I get it. We'll see what happens. And the dang Tennessee Titans just selected Anthony Hill Jr. Like, again, I didn't love him as a prospect, but because I thought he was a lot like Anthony, like Leo Chenal, but also he's
so if he does anything in a game, if he gets a single sack against Trevor Lawrence, the Duval devout will lose their entire minds.
Yes. I won't pretend I'm not a hater. I cover the Jaguars, but I'm also a fan of the team. So I'm not. I don't like the Titans. That is what it is. So. But at the end of the day, the Jaguars, they get their guy. They get a starting tight end, however you feel about him, because you haven't watched this film yet. And we know you haven't. Let's be honest. 90% of y'all didn't watch this man film. Y'all mad about the pick because it's like, who? I understand. But I think it's a reasonably solid pick. And if you want to establish the run game, if you want to make this run game great again, we'll figure out the right acronym later. Then, yeah, you're probably going to be reasonably happy with the pick. And again, let him cook. If it don't work out, we can judge him later. If it does work out, y'all going to be silent anyways. That's it.
With that being said, champion, tell the world we can be found until our next outing here.
You already know I can be found watching this NFL draft, y'all, but most importantly on bigcatcountry.com and on the Duval Dive here. Click that like button, man. Please comment. We will be back on after the conclusion of round 3, where we'll talk about whoever the Jacksonville Jaguars select with these remaining picks. Hopefully it's a cornerback, because I like cornerbacks, maybe an edge. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, hey, keep it locked in, and we'll talk to y'all in a few minutes. And let them know where you can be found, bro.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG, Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings, UCF Night Zone and Locked On UCF. Malachi Lawrence was a thing last night, just saying. And of course, the Orlando Storm play tomorrow night. I'll be there with the Storm Surge podcast, while also covering the Orlando Magic in the playoffs tomorrow. But a little bit later tonight, we'll talk to you again, Duval Divers. Until next time, class dismissed.